Good evening. Welcome to Talk Maldives show. I'm Amnatu Sharma. Tonight's show is the first of this series. And on this show, we'll be talking about politics, international relations, and the most pressing issues in the country. To be more precise, on tonight's show, we will be talking about former President Mohammad Nasheed's medical leave, which is also portrayed by some as media leave because he has been giving various interviews to foreign media. To begin with, let me welcome to tonight's show the Minister of Legal Affairs at the President's Office, Azma Shakur, Minister of Tourism, Musa Zamir, and Foreign Secretary, Dr. Ali Nasir. Welcome to the show. So on this issue, it is not easy to talk about sensitive issues like terrorism, extremism, and it is a global phenomenon. But then again, do you think that extremism, allegedly extremism, exists in the Maldives?
I think in the context that President Nasheed, we did hear him talk to CNN last night with regards, and we have heard several accounts from his lawyers as well with regards to the issue of extremism. We have heard figures like 200 people going to fight in Syria and people being recruited in the Maldives, and some other foreign media taking interviews from some of our islanders. I think we need to sit back and bring this into perspective. We are a country of all Maldivians, including people like me, people like you, people like us here. And definitely the figure of 200 is not correct. The Ministry of Home Affairs figure is not more than 35 existing. Extremism is an issue of concern, definitely. We should not underplay extremism as not an issue of concern. It is an issue of concern, but we should bring that into perspective. And Maldivian people going to Syria, definitely a major concern for the government as well.
Nasheed's lawyer, Amal Clooney, she precisely said that Maldives has the highest per capita rate of recruitment to ISIS in the world. Don't you think this is hasty generalization? Based on what source do you think that she made this remark?
Yeah, exactly. That's what she did not mention, to which she was comparing, even other statistics from other countries. None of it was. And she is a lawyer of international reputability, no doubt about that. But if you take the other side of the coin, Maldives is the country with the lowest recruitment to Syria, probably that's 35. So like twisting words, generalizing things does not really, it should not happen. We are a country based on tourism, and for these things to be generalized, and for somebody of the stature of President Nasheed, who is the former president, to go out and talk about in the world issues which hurts the country, it's really not acceptable. You know, it hurts every single Maldivian person. It doesn't hurt specific people. So when issues like this are generalized, when among 200 islands of the country, when islanders of just one island are sort of interviewed or videoed and then shown as the total population of Maldives, it hurts the country, and I don't think it's acceptable. It's overly generalized, it's twisted, it's just one side of the coin. So I would call it very irresponsible. I don't know, maybe the tourism minister can add on to that.
Because they specifically mentioned that it is just a matter of time before the beaches of the Maldives could be attacked. So how do you find this? How true is this? Do you think it's possible?
Well, I mean, I can say for terrorists, you know, anything is possible. But I think as a country, we have taken the measures which, like any other Western nation would have done. We have got the act. We have through the Parliament, Anti-Terror Act, which was passed last year, and it's noteworthy that MDP did not support this bill. But again, you know, we have stopped people going to see criteria, and then we have contained many. We have profiled some of those who has been there, and then to ensure that recruitments are being curtailed. But again, like any other country, like the UK, like the USA, they are having the same issue. But as the minister has rightly said, the 200 figure, which is just a very imaginary figure, which the lawyer was talking about and the former president was talking about, is utterly rubbish. We have got figures in our own, which has been published by the concerned ministries. And then if you, recently we had this issue of Western media, portraying one of the islands. Actually, personally, we handled this from our ministry, and then we have done an investigation, and we saw that island, it did have some predominant history was there with some erratic religious behavior was there from some of those people. But and the islanders now, if you look at the Facebook and that tourism which is being developed there, you will see it's really what they have said is not true. And then going back to the figure of 200, I seriously feel that, like any other nation, if the international media try to play down, the truth, then there's very little one can do. But like we have said, the Maldives, the government has taken all adequate measures to ensure that terrorism is contained, and then the region is safe from terrorists. And then, like any other country in the region, we have been working very hard. The government is ensuring the safety of the travelers into the Maldives.
I would like to place my question on Dr. Ali Nasir. We hear his lawyer Malclooney, on various occasions she has advocated to place sanctions on government officials. The idea of sanctions, which emerged in the 1800s, do you think it is applicable for the modern world? Yes.
Right. Yes, we hear the calls for sanctions, whether it's targeted or otherwise. When we hear about the idea of imposing sanctions on Maldives, the immediate question is about what? Sanctions for doing what? Normally, countries are placed under sanctions for violating international law, for violating its own laws. Maldives is a country where there is a democratically elected government, which holds regular elections. The elected officials are answerable to the parliament, answerable to the people through elections. Maldives is a country that thrives on development, that has succeeded in overcoming a number of challenges. Maldives is a country that has highest per capita GDP in South Asia, has the highest Human Development Index in South Asia. Maldives is a country whose life expectancy in 1977 was just 47 years old. Now it is in up 70s, in 76, 77. Maldives is a country whose literacy rate is 98%. And Maldives is a country whose infant mortality in 1977 was 125 per 1,000. Now it is 7 per 1,000. Whose maternal mortality in 1977 was 760. Now it is 34 per 10,000. So these are some of the statistics that those who criticize the Maldives, those who call for sanctions on Maldives, forget to mention. This is a country which, since a multi-party political system was introduced, this is a country who has held more than 5-6 competitive elections without any violence, without killing anyone, without any bloodshed on the streets. This is a country whose government has changed peacefully. And this is not something we hear and we see in other parts of the world, even in our own neighborhood.
So do you think we're facing this problem because if we compare territory, the population, everything, because Maldives is a small country, that is why we're facing these problems by the big giants. Okay, do you think it's because of that?
Well, let's take President Nasheed's lawyer,
Yes.
Amal Clooney. Well, I'm not questioning about her being a famous lawyer, but in addition to being a famous lawyer, she is also a celebrity. Let's put that into context. Now, international celebrities go on advocating about causes, and they would like to be seen to be helping countries that are impoverished, that have civil wars running in their country. And in recent months, in recent years, we have seen countries that are embarking on multi-party, that are embarking on democratic path, come into problems that are also famous for tourism, and whose tourist resorts have been attacked in the past. And it is easy to draw similarities between Maldives and these countries and project the Maldives as one of the similar countries, if you like, put into the same category.
So do you think this is a media stunt by Amal Clooney? Is that what you're saying?
Well, Maldives is a famous country. Maldives is a famous tourist destination. It is a destination that everyone seeks to go to and sought after, and it is easy for somebody to gain.
So do you think President Nasheed is following the footsteps of the international celebrities? So is he promoting himself by tarnishing the reputation of the country? So
Yes.
how would you place
the way
this?
I portray it
Yes.
as a Moldavian, I see this as on last night's program, we saw his lawyer saying President Nasheed's only crime is that he's a threat to the government.
Do you think he's a threat to the government?
No, my point here is
Yes.
that's not the crime that he's been tried for. He abducted a judge without a legal warrant, out of the boundaries of the Constitution, came out and announced that the Constitution was suspended. He did it. He went to
Yes.
BBC Hard Talk and said he was the person who ordered for the judge to be arrested without any court order. The Supreme Court came out and ordered him to release. He said no. And for them to come out to the world with powerful lawyers who are sort of accepted by the whole community to twist the truth is not fair on a small country. That's what we are saying. For the average Maldivian, it hurts. When it hurts the economy, it hurts the average Maldivian. And this is a person, this is not his first crime record. He has been in trouble with the law. That's a fact. In 2008, when the Constitution was ratified, one of his prosecutions were taken back. That's what allowed him to contest in the elections. During the election, again, he got into trouble with the law. There was a prosecution by independent prosecutor general. And when he won the election, the prosecutor general brought back the prosecution and saying it's in public interest. And again here, we all heard him say that he's going to take a decision, he's going to be very sad about it, but he took the decision. He arrested the judge. He was held in isolation or whatever we may want to for 22 days, and then he wasn't released. The government changed, and then he came out. This is a crime by any means. Whatever you want to call it, it's different. Different jurisdictions might have different prosecutions for that. But to say his only crime is being a threat to the government, he was not prosecuted under this government. That's a fact.
So,
That's a fact. So he's
yes.
not being prosecuted for being a threat to the government. He is being prosecuted for
If
the
I were to add,
Yes.
in the last two elections, we have beaten him. The presidential election as well as the parliamentary election. So there's no question that he is no threat to the government, and he is no threat to anybody other than the economy and his calls for boycotting Maldives, and then his false allegations on the terrorism activities that he says that we have here. But other than that, he is rightly the minister has said he has abducted a sitting judge, and he was not disposed of from his office. Actually, the UN and the Commonwealth has had its investigation and said he left his office. So I think by all means we have that argument is that there is no threat to the government.
So do you think he's misleading the international community?
I would like to add on
Yes.
to what the minister just
Yes.
said. Basically, his lawyer said, if you sum it all up, she said the international community must not forget that Nasheed is still not a free man, meaning to say he's still got a sentence on his head, and he's not allowed to run for the elections. Therefore, the sanctions must continue. And for that goal to pursue, for that one person to be allowed who's committed a crime, for that one person to be allowed to be freed from jail and to be allowed to run the elections, we are being exploited for our weakest points, for being saying that we've got extremism here, we've got human rights abusers here, all of that, and that's what we are saying. That's what we're, this is by any means exaggerating what a real situation is about. Dr. Ali Nasir had just sort of mentioned what the situation in the country. So basically, if you sum up the whole thing, that's what they're saying. Unless and until his sentence is being commuted and he's a free person, and unless and until he's allowed to run the elections, we are going to call for elections, and we have the power to do this because we are influential in the world, and this is what this country is about, which has no relation to President Nasheed's basically, if you talk about it, the issue of extremism or human rights, it has no relation to what President Nasheed did in 2011. So that's by any means exaggeration.
So coming back to President Nasheed's medical leave, he's supposed to return after 30 days. Do you think he will return?
Well, like I said earlier today on the BBC, I mean, we would really like to President Nasheed to come and face the trial that is pending in the Supreme Court. I think he has requested for. I think so. It's going to happen. So I think we believe that President Nasheed is going to be there to face the people, because I think what all this means is that he would, His Excellency would like to serve the people, and for that he will have to acquit himself
so
from
what about this
been.
unfinished business that he was talking about? Do you think it's something personal, or he's trying to escape from his trial? What do you think he meant by he has unfinished business in the country?
What do you think?
Politicians will have ambitions. But at the same time, President Nasheed, as we all know, is serving a sentence. Well, I'll not comment on what President Nasheed implied in his answer on CNN. Let's put the situation in a proper context. President Nasheed's situation is that there is a sentence passed by the criminal court, and President Nasheed himself has appealed the sentence to the Supreme Court, and the Prosecutor General also has appealed the sentence at the Supreme Court. This is not a political situation. This is a legal situation. There is a case that lawyers from both sides will put their case in front of a judge at the Supreme Court. Now, trying to resolve this situation through television or through reality TV shows by using celebrities perhaps might not be the way that legal issues are fought at the courts. So we expect that President Nasheed's lawyers and the Prosecutor General's lawyers will present their cases at the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court actually calls for a hearing.
So, depending on what we see today, and I would like to actually go more into this talk of extremism. So did it happen overnight, since President Nasheed is vehemently criticizing the current religious state of the Maldives? In other sense, the extremists running haywire in the country. So do you think this happened overnight? It wasn't there in his during his administration. There are people who allegedly say that during Maumoon's administration, the religious scholars, they were not freely able to give sermons, and then the situation was contained. But Nasheed allied with the so-called extremists to garner more support and then to win the election. Do you think he is the reason for the extremism situation that we see in this country today?
See, the fact is actually, during President Nasheed's presidency, there were separate mosques, which was run by the so-called the fundamentalists. But we had to. After he left office, we have to put all this together and ensure that there was religious harmony, and then people were able to come together. And I think we can safely say that these elements of religious extremism flourished during the tenure where President Nasheed was in office for the 3 years, and then he wasn't able to because of his promises that he had with extreme groups when he came into power. He was not able to contain it. So as a result, there was recruitments done by foreign elements on these separatist groups, especially in Mali. Also, I think we saw it. But when we came into power, we have to contain it and ensure that there was religious harmony. And then we had to come up with solutions which President Nasheed has left it. When he left, was in a turmoil. And if you look at how the media stunt which is playing today, for example, Maldives' economy depends a lot on the tourism, and I don't think by any means it's fair for any person who loves the Maldives to go out there and tell lies about what is happening in the Maldives. There has been no credible information on any terrorist threats in the Maldives, and then also there has been no credible information that we have recruitments happening here right now, because the government has put proper legislation and also the systems in place where this is being contained. So, and again, like my colleagues here has said, it is very, if you come up with the Maldives, if you engage yourself with the Maldives in the international media, you really can have your celebrity status move up, because Maldives, if you look at right now under the President Yamin's regime, we have had fantastic economic legislations coming, like the SEZ and all this, and then there's huge investments coming in, and if you look at what we have in the pipeline. So if you can engage yourself with it, or against it, rather against it, then there will be some audience for you. So that's exactly what President Nasheed and his colleagues and his friendly Hollywood lawyers are doing, and I think it's.
We'll come back after a short break. Welcome back to Talk Maldives. So coming back to our topic today, depending on the current political situation in the Maldives, do you get international pressure? How much pressure do you get? Yes.
Well, I will not characterize that as pressure. I would say that Maldives is, in one way, Maldives is quite lucky that we have partners and friends who inquire about the situation in Maldives, who care about the Maldives. The worst thing that would happen to a small state is that when the country is left alone by the international community, that it doesn't receive any attention. We are in a privileged situation in many ways, that the Maldives situation is monitored, is interested by our partners and friends. And there are international partners and friends whom we can rely on, whom we can work with, and who are ready to work with the Maldives. Now, it is also important that we characterize the situation in Maldives in its proper context. Maldives is a country that is embarking on multi-party democracy, which is only 5 to 6 years or 7 years old. In any democracy, whether it is advanced, whether it is highly mature, whether it is at infant stages, will always come across situations where there are political disagreements among political parties, among politicians. That is very nature of competitive political systems. That is what we are experiencing.
Do you think the West is bandwagoning the situation?
Well, let's put it this way, from our perspective, we are working with the West, with other countries, with countries who have democratic traditions which are centuries and centuries old. We are working with those countries in order to strengthen our institutions, strengthen our systems, so that the democratic tradition that we started will be cultivated here in a way that there will be no going back. Democracy is also, while it is a system, is also a culture that you have to carefully cultivate, where the decisions of the national institutions of the state, are fully respected by politicians and individuals, everyone alike. In mature democracies, like for example, we might want to recall in 2000 in the United States, which is considered to be one of the most advanced democracies, there was a dispute at the presidential election, and which was settled at the Supreme Court. Now, one of the candidates, of course, lost at the Supreme Court battle, and what he said was, while he did not believe in the decision, but he accepted nevertheless. He said, I will accept that decision, I will go along with the Supreme Court's decision. That's the tradition of democracy. That's where I think everyone wants to be in. While the decisions of the higher institutions of the state might not be in your favor, but it is in everyone's responsibility, it is a duty on everyone to respect the decisions of the institutions of the state, and the credibility of the institutions will be maintained, will be upheld, and will grow with the cooperation of everyone in the country.
So the international community is anarchic in nature. There's no supreme country or state which will actually manage all the countries. So if we talk about Maldives, Maldives is a sovereign nation. So basically, but still we get statements from the bigger Western countries on our domestic affairs. So do you think it is fair, or why do you think if we are working with them, why is that happening? Is it a communication error, or is the opposition tarnishing the reputation of the country based on false allegations? How would you put it? Yes.
Well, politicians, whether they are in the opposition or in the government, will ultimately be working with the institutions and along with the institutions that are established to resolve questions or disputes in the country. Whether these questions are taken at international level, either bilaterally or at multilateral forums, that will be up to the politicians concerned. But ultimately, those questions will be addressed at institutions that are established to do so, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's the Elections Commission, whether it's the Human Rights Commission. There are institutions of the state. In the case of the Maldives, these are institutions that are established under the Constitution of the Maldives. Commenting on domestic affairs of any country, well, these are things that are done at international level. The Maldives do comment on internal political issues of other countries as well at appropriate international forums. For example, there is Universal Periodic Review that is going on currently in Geneva, and we talk to our friends and partners, and we give our advices and our suggestions as well. The difference is that the Maldives does not judge the performances of other countries. The Maldives shares its experiences in overcoming certain challenges. And what we don't like in the Maldives is being judged with by a yardstick that is invented in somewhere else. We would like to be judged by our own performances if somebody is to judge ourselves. But we are ready to work with other countries and learn from their experiences and share our experiences in return as well.
So you mean to say there's no country which will not have the so-called human rights violations to a certain extent? Is that so?
There is no perfect country. Every country improves day by day. We are not claiming that the Maldives has a perfect system. We are not claiming that the Maldives has a perfect record on anything. We are saying that we are not the worst country. We have certain, on certain respects, as I said earlier in my answer to one of your questions, we have performed if you compare with any country, far better than many countries that issued statements against Maldives. But that's not how we project ourselves. What we are saying is that while it is not a perfect country, we are committed in trying to make the lives of Maldivians better every day and every hour of the day.
I would like to add on to that.
Sure.
I think what we're trying to say here, we're young. It's just 7 years after we received multi-party democracy. And for us to be compared to countries who've got democracy and the kind of constitutions that we have only had in 2008 for thousands of years is just like, it's just something that we don't think is right. For instance, if you talk about the legal system or any sort of profession to that, the first Western trained lawyer, if you might like, still alive. He's still practicing. And we are comparing ourselves to judiciaries, we are comparing ourselves to legal systems where trained lawyers have existed for thousands of years. So what we're really trying to say here is when we received multi-party democracy in 2008, we knew we would have a lot of challenges. We knew that we didn't have the human resources. We knew we didn't have the legal system. But then we still strived because we really needed, we really wanted, we know we want, and we want to have democracy. And that takes a while. And it's not just it's not, the while we're talking about will be a long while to have all of these institutions institutionalized. But I think the Maldives has always welcomed the statements, constructive statements. We try, our system should be improved. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of work to be done to perfect democracy in this country. Nobody denies that. But the fact is, for us to be judged without trial, for us to be judged by measurements of a first world country, where we have in the registry of lawyers in the government, we barely have 600. And that's the kind of numbers we're talking about. So for us to be judged on that, and on that judgment without trial, for us to have sanctions on the country, that's what we're talking about.
So do you think this problem, the West is judging us because of the problems created by the former president and his allies and his people? Do you think is it so?
What we're talking about is President Nasheed's lawyers, and President Nasheed is calling for that judgment just because of him and his sentence, not because of anything else. Yeah. That's what we are saying. So and the judgment will be the punitive action or the sanctions that comes against that. And that's what Dr. Ali Nasir said, that by any means we don't fit into that criteria for that sentence to come, for that sentence of punitive action to come onto us. And that's what we are saying. So on the one hand is a person who has committed a crime, who's got a crime record. If somebody goes through his crime record, maybe one would be surprised at what kind of crimes he would have on his crime record. But this time he is being tried for a crime he committed in front of all of us. But the whole country is being called, the whole country's performance, being a young democracy where we have a lot of institutional problems which the other countries do not have, for being judged on that to save this one single person who has committed a crime and admitted in front of them. That's what I think the issue should be brought into perspective in that.
Yeah,
yes.
If I may add to the international relations issues, that I think we continue to engage with our partners, our allies, our neighbors. For example, I mean, you would have seen, we have been very close with Indians and even Sri Lankans. Recently, when President Nasheed was released on his medical leave, there were media stunts which was played in Sri Lanka, saying that he met with the president of Sri Lanka at the airport, and then some old photos were shown, and then I mean these were all stunts, but we continue to have very good relations with the international community. We engage with the Americans, we engage with the European Union, we engage with the Germans, and we are always there, I mean explaining how we do things and what we we could improve. And if you go back, a few years ago, you would have seen even the European Union has assisted us in reforming the judiciary as well. It has been a continuous engagement with us, and even in our government in the last 2 years, I think we have had very good relations with our international partners, including the United States and India. So I think where we stand right now is a point where we need to move forward with our agenda. And today it's the international relations is not only about just the issues that we see in the in these statements, like we engage. There's like President Yamin has said, we have the financial and business diplomacy that we have been engaging ourselves with, not with the West but the rest of the world, like China and then in the Middle East. We have been engaged very much. So I think that, and there is much that we see. I mean, if about 20 years ago, if you looked at us, we were least developed nation, and today we have migrated from that, and we are a developing nation, and we continue to enhance our economy and then widen our economy, so that we need more engagements with the world. And then if you look at tourism, for example, we see a lot of tourists are from the European Union, and we just cannot isolate ourselves. So we engage and we ensure that what we do is accountable, and then what we do here in the Maldives has a bearing on the rest of the world. So we ensure that we are accountable, and then our investors are given the protection that is needed by the law. But again, when somebody comes out on streets and then says some blunt lie, then it's very easy for one to sell it. So that's the situation that we are going through right now. I don't think this can continue for too long, because the world will eventually know, because the figures, it talks for itself. And then as Minister has rightly said, there is record of crimes on the person whom we are talking.
So why do you think he's actually raising these issues? Is he being dramatic? If he's being dramatic, if he's creating his own problems and then pretending to resolve those issues, and why do you think President Nasheed is playing this? What is his purpose? What does he hope to attain from the international community? Is it to come out as the hero at the end of the day? What do you think is the ultimate goal?
Unfortunately, when he was in power, there were certain things that he did outside the laws, but he did outside the law. I think he himself has admitted several times that he has done this, he has done that, and arrested judges, and then politicians. For example, President Yamin was arrested, and JP leader Qasim was arrested, and I think the Supreme Court was closed down, and then we had so many undemocratic issues which he has personally admitted in public that he did it. So to get out of this, I think one need to use all the cards, and we are now. President Nasheed is going to the extent where he is going against his own people. Now, his own people elected the current regime and the current president. So it is his responsibility to ensure, to give him a fair 5 years in office, and ensure that try and beat him in another election, like we have done. We fought him in the election, and we have beaten him, not once, twice.
Legally speaking, can President Nasheed actually compete in the 2018 election?
Depends. His case is still not finished. I don't think we're at that stage even now. His case is on appeal. It really depends on what the outcome of the appeal. He has appealed his case when he refused to appeal the Prosecutor General. We should remember that when the sanctions are being called out, it's not in the history of the country when the PG appeals a successful prosecution. Normally, the PG would appeal when he or she gets defeated in a prosecution. This time, the PG won, but still he or she, the then PG appealed to the High Court, and the current PG appealed to the Supreme Court, and that's rare. that's also still going beyond that 1 inch to give President Nasheed a fair trial that what everybody is asking for. If you ask the question as to why he's doing this, he's got nothing to lose right now. If the international community or whatever he says is he will come back, but he wants to be a free person, nobody wants to spend time in jail. That's a fact.
So what about this talk of solitary confinement?
I think
torture in prison.
We did hear last night his lawyer saying that he was held in solitary confinement. But I think Minister Umar, the Home Minister, has very clearly said he was being provided with an apartment with his own sitting room and his bedroom and air conditioned and all of that. So nobody in the history of this, we are a country who has got a history of putting presidents in jail as well. Political leaders in jail. For instance, the current president was in jail during President Nasheed's regime. But this time for President Nasheed, his own quarters was built. He's not held there. He's got another companion. And that's what the Home Minister has been saying over and over again. And it's like we don't hear of that. We have not heard of any sort of that sort of treatment for any other person. Maybe the Home Minister would come out with more details of his, but he's not held in. So he has got a separate apartment. He's got somebody being there with him. He's got his own sitting room, and he has a pretty good accommodation in the jail. So I think that should also be considered.
Yeah, we also heard his lawyer saying that the people rally in the streets of the Maldives with ISIS flags, but being a Maldivian, and then when we hear about the terrorism, like I said before, there's no universal meaning for terrorism either. Terrorism or any of these political terms, we can say. So how much of an impact would this have on the tourism of the Maldives?
Well, certainly we will have, when people of, celebrity status go out there and then tell lies, then I'm sure there will be a community of people who will believe that, and from our side, what we are trying to do is actually to ensure that these lies are, we have our own PR firms who are working with us in all our key markets, ensuring that the correct message is delivered to our customer, and then to ensure that they are informed in a timely manner. So certainly we have had inquiries about the lies which is being spread by the president, former president, and his attorneys. But what I see is there will certainly be a slowdown in the arrivals, and we see concerns from some of our investors. But I think we are working with our partners, our partner countries, including India, Sri Lanka, and the rest of the world, that we try to engage with them, and then try to make sure that the government themselves help us in overcoming this issue. So while we had a slow arrival in end of the last year, and then again with this the blatant lies which is coming from these people, if there certainly seems to be an effect. Then the problem is actually this affects really the very middle class and the lower middle class of the nation, where a lot of them depend on the jobs and of these resorts. So unfortunately what they do is hurting their own people, the very people that they are trying to serve. So the president is steadfast on growing the economy, and to ensure that dependency on the tourism certainly is going to be there. But we have other avenues that the government will be working on, try to sustain the economy. But we will ensure that we maintain the law and order here, and ensure that criminals will do serve their time in prescribed by the law. So there is our stand here.
I think the irony here is, I would like to add on to what you said. The irony here is we have former president. We've seen former president in other parts of the world, so even in this region. nobody, a statesman, a person of this stature, will go out into the world and sort of, talk like this about his own country. We've got a former president who is going out into the world and telling them this is a country of extremism. Please don't go there.
It's unfair for the
no, it is not that. It's
Maldivians,
generalizing the
yes.
whole Maldivian population, you, me, everybody else here, as extremists.
Yeah.
And this is not what Maldives is about. We should remember that.
Even the
let me finish.
journalist, the journalist who questioned him said that people who go to places like Maldives are just terrified.
That's not right.
Yes.
Okay, which country in the world does not have the issues of terrorism? We are saying, we are concerned of issues of raising extremism, people going to Syria. That's a concern to us. But that figure is not 200. That figure is 35 at the most. And we are not saying that's okay for us. We would never say that. Even one is worrying for us, and the government will be worried about it. We have, as Minister Zamir said, passed legislation last year to stop that, and the police is actively working on that. But ironically, we've got a president who is going out and talking about this and saying every Maldivian is an extremist, so please don't go to my country. And he is willing to do that. He is willing to undermine the whole country and all of his people who voted even for him, just to prove a point that he comes out free of the jail. And
Yes.
only once we had this threat about some TV station, and there was some action taken against a TV station. Believe me, the government got questions about that TV station saying that the government is impending on free media. This is the type of irony we have in terms of questions coming into us. When if had we not taken action against that TV station for allowing terrorism to happen, we would have been questioned, why didn't you do it? But now we are questioned on the basis of why are you impeding free media because you've taken action against this TV station. So this is the kind of, and for the average person who is watching this in a free world where they've got all of these democratic measures, they listen to this from their own perspective. And when you have a former president, it is rare for a former president who's still looking for votes to come out and undermine your whole country. It's just unheard of.
So before wrapping up, I'd like to place a final question. When he was asked whether he would return back to the country, he said something like talking to his lawyers. Can he do that?
Of course he can talk to his lawyers.
No, not about talking to his lawyers. I mean, can he stay? Can he stay abroad? Because he was given a 30-day period to return, right? Since he's on medical leave, it is legally possible. So, what can the Maldivian government do about it? And internationally speaking, according to the international law, how would you place it?
I think there's a law governing medical leaves in prison people going abroad, so I think the government will ensure that we stay within the law and then ensure that he is given what is prescribed by law for his medical leave, and then beyond that, if President Nasheed stays, and I'm sure he will be prosecuted for that. That again, that will be the very short answer that anyone could give on that, but there's a very detailed procedure in the Home Ministry about the question, and then I'm sure the government will definitely stay within law, and then if President Nasheed do not return, and then if it is falls outside law, he will be prosecuted for that.
Yes, I'm sure this is a very broad subject. The time is also in our next programs we will talk more about subjects like terrorism, politics.
On the issue of President Nasheed consulting with his lawyers, definitely. He has his Maldivian and international lawyers. He will definitely talk to his lawyers. That's fine. He's there for medical leave, for medical treatment, and I think there are procedures in Department of Corrections which has allowed him to go, and I think it's for him to decide what he really wants to do. Right. And it's the law is written down. It's for everybody to see. And
and nobody is above the law.
No, I think I would like to say that he would come back. He's a politician by any means. He is given a guarantee that he would come back after his medical treatment. So I think we should leave it there. Let's welcome him back when he comes back.
Thank you very much joining us here on this show. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes tonight's show. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening ahead. Bye-bye.